Hey! Are you ready to write the blueprint to control hundreds of metahumans? Well, before we get started, I wanna tell you something. Some of you have written to me saying you were scared to see such a big and evil blueprint. Don't worry, it's just a long process, but nothing complicated. And the best part is that once it's finished, since it's modular, you can reuse it and create many different kind of crowds, ancient Romans, modern soldiers, zombies, aliens, Egyptians, whatever you need in your projects. And that's a really good deal. So, now let's get started. We need to separate each part of the metahuman. So, we create 3 folders for the different bodies, faces and groom. We then need to place all these parts into separate arrays within a blueprint structure. To create it, open the folder, right-click, select Blueprint and then Structure. Now, let's put the different parts into their respective folders. Go to the MetaHuman folder, filter by skeletal mesh, select all 7 bodies and copy them into the folder we created. Do the same for the 7 different faces. Copy, don't move. Keep the original skeletal mesh just in case. Save all. Now rename all the parts in numerical order. It's very important to number face 0, body 0, hair 0, face 1, body 1, hair 1 and so on. This will help maintain order and avoid possible errors. We'll start at 0 to match the array indexing. Once done, open the blueprint structure, add a variable and rename it bodies. Select skeletal mesh as variable type and the relative object reference. Create an array, save it and create another identical one for the faces. Go to default values and create 7 rows. Now we can populate our first array. Go to the bodies folder and pop up the content browser. Insert everything into the array in the numerical order we used previously. Now populate the faces array in the same way. Start renaming the faces in numerical order. Done. We are ready to start writing the blueprint. First, copy the name of the blueprint structure. Add a variable and search for our blueprint structure. This way, we can use all the data we stored in the various arrays. Compile and save. Add another variable as integer and rename it mhrnd index. This variable will be the index of our metahuman. Drag the variable while holding down Alt to set it. Then drag the structure and select Break to display the different arrays. From the array of bodies, let's have the blueprint randomly pick one. This will be the index of our metahuman, and we'll use this number to extract all the parts from the other arrays that exactly match the chosen metahuman. Don't forget to use -1 as maximum number for the random integer in range. Now, we can give our metahuman a body and a face simply using our index. Put the body reference in the event graph and choose Set Skeletal Mesh Asset as node. Reuse the blueprint structure to select from the bodies array the right body. using obviously the MHRND index. Then do the same for the face. Compile and save. Let's see how our metahuman behaves in the game level. Select it and give it a unique name, for example, base aim H. This will allow us to make multiple copies quickly. Let's create 16 copies. As you can see, just go to Outliner, search for our metahuman's name and use Ctrl-Alt to select them all, and then you can easily copy them in the level. When there are hundreds of metahumans, this will speed up the process incredibly. Delete all these meshes, we don't need them now. Let's play simulation. As you can see, the faces are assigned randomly, but the grooms are a real disaster. It depends on the incorrect groom binding. Go to the basic MetaHuman folder and change the color to quickly recognize it in the future. Opening up. Now we need to do the same thing we did for the different bodies and faces. This time for the hair, beard, mustache, eyebrows, eyelashes and fuzz. And we need to do this for all our metahumans. Let's proceed in order. Let's start with metahuman 0 and rename all his groom, giving them the number 0, of course. Do the same for the metahuman 1, 2 and so on. Once done, add a subfolder to the R&D Groom folder for each groom, hair, beard, mustache and so on. Finally, go to the MetaHuman folder, filter by groom and select all the 7 different hair. Copy them to the hair folder. Do the same operation for all the remaining groom assets. Once done, we have to put all this groom in the blueprint structure, creating the corresponding groom asset arrays. Let's start from the hair. Now we need the relative groom binding, and to do that, select the first groom hair in the folder, right-click and then click on Create Binding. Here, as a target skeletal mesh, choose the face 00, since we have obviously created the binding from the hair 00. Binding assets also need to be renamed in a numerical order. Here we create a folder and name it Binding. This will contain all the subfolder for the hair binding of all our metahumans. And we also have to name the folders in a numerical order 00, 01, 02 and so on. Now move the binding asset we just created in the binding folder. Open it up. For each binding we need a source and a target face skeletal mesh. The source is the face the hair belongs to, while the target will be the face of the metahuman randomly selected from the blueprint via MHRND index variable. Remember? In this way, every hair will match with the metahuman selected by the blueprint, and this is the same for all the Groom assets. Create 7 different binding assets in numerical order, where the first number is the number of the asset itself, and the last one is the target face. Then open all of them. We have to put all the hair assets in numerical order to match the faces, and select the correct face for each hair asset. Remember, 00 with 00, 01 with 01 and so on. Save all and go back to the blueprint structure. We have to create the array of the assets just created. Name it with the name of the binding folder. In this case, the variable will be the reference of a Groom binding asset. Make an array, of course. Then, in the default values, create 7 rows. And put all the binding assets in order from their folder, in this way. Once finished, we create more folders for the remaining metahumans, in our case 7, and obviously always follow the correct numbering. For example, copy all the binding assets from the 00 folder to the 01. And rename the assets changing the target number, in this case 01. Open once again the assets just created and change the target face skeletal mesh. Now go back to the blueprint structure and add a variable to put the new asset in. Use always the same name of the folders. Create the rows and insert the right binding assets, and repeat the process for all the folders. Finally, go back to our BPMH based crowd. We need to create a function to set the right groom on our metahumans. Hit plus button in the function panel and name it assign hair. Put the blueprint structure in the function and break it. First, we need to randomize the hair, as we did for the body and faces. Use the same method. A random integer will be the index of the hair, and so create a new variable and call it rnd hair. Drag it into the function holding Alt to set it. Now we are ready to set the hair. Take our random integer. Then we have to set the relative binding asset. Create a switch on int node. The variable of the selection has to be the random integer of the metahuman. So add 7 pin to the node. Let's take our blueprint structure once again. To get the right hair binding according to MHRND index, get a copy and put the RND hair index to get the exact row of the hair and set the binding asset in the hair reference. Copy all the nodes for all the pins of the switch on int node, changing only the binding hair array in the right order. The concept is very easy. The variable MHRND index shows the metahuman face and body. For example, 03. The variable RND hair select the hair, for example, 01. The switch on int node use the metahuman 03 to select the right hair binding array, in this case 03 hair binding 03, and the get node will take the row 01 according with the integer of the RND hair. Finally, the function set hair binding which have source metahuman 01 and hair 01 and target metahuman 03. Now add the new function in the event graph. To test the blueprint, hide the other grooms which have not the right binding yet. It plays simulation. The grooms have still something strange. The color don't match the original, and also some binding is not perfect. To solve this problem, we need to delete all the original groom asset in our blueprint, because the engine overlays them with the new random ones. As you can see, everything works fine now. To give our crowd more dynamism, I also want to include bold characters. As not to have many, I'm setting the probability to low, for example 2 on 10. Here we have some bald guys. Finally, we have to repeat the same process we did with hair binding assets for all the other groom assets, starting for example for the bears. Create all the bindings. Create the variables in the structure. Create a function for each groom. Just duplicate and rename the function. Create a random integer to randomly assign the groom assets. And follow exactly the same process of the assign hair function. In the blueprint structure, click on the All Variables, hold Ctrl and drag the connection in the right pin. Change the groom reference. Keep the MHRND index, of course. Delete the old variables and put in the right ones. In this case, bird, and RND bear. Finally, change the arrays in the blueprint structure and that's it. put the function in the event graph. And don't forget to turn the groom visible and delete the original groom asset before you test the blueprint in the level. For now, I want everyone to have birds, so I'm ignoring the function of air. Let's test it. Cool. Here you see all the functions done. And the complete blueprint structure. Wow, this is really big. Like I said, it takes a while to make, but it's not difficult. And here is the entire final block of code. I've called it randomize and assign basic MH assets, skeletal meshes and grooms. Here I've created a variable to set the MetaHuman LOD using the forced LOD property of the LOD sync component. This will be very useful to don't waste GPU resources. Here instead the random variable which assign body and face to every single MetaHuman we put in the level. Here's a little function to make some guys bald, and here the eyebrows assignment that ignores the previous branch. I want every MetaHuman to have eyebrows. Here's another little function, a switch on int to assign birds and mustache. The random integer decide value 0 no bird and no mustache. With 1 assign only mustache, with 2 only bird, and if it's 3 the guys will have both a bird and a mustache. Finally, I've created 2 boolean to decide if assign or not fuzz and eyelashes. To be honest, for a crowd, especially for the first MetaHuman, we don't need these 2 groom. Here is a little debug system for the groom binding that I'll show you into another tutorial. You already have a lot to learn for now. Well, now it's time to test the result of our work. Cool. Every time we hit play simulation, the MetaHuman changes. With this, your MetaHuman Crowd System is almost complete. The longest and most boring part is over. Further ahead, we'll see how to randomize also the colors, the haze, the clothes and the accessories. And the crowd will be amazing. But first, we need to dress our guys properly. These cheap clothes are really horrible. Alright guys, that's all for now. In the next chapter we will dressing up our MetaHuman crowd. So stay tuned and don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on the notifications. For the rest, enjoy life always and of course, ciao!